All right, welcome to our live AMA. I wanted to jump on today at the beginning of the year and talk about what 2026 has in store for data engineers and how to survive all of the changes that are going on in our profession. So it is January 2026. The AI hype cycle is really actually mid-gear, right? I mean, there's a lot of things going on. There's talk about a bubble, there's talk about not being a bubble, all kinds of things going on. And the reality check is here. We're going to talk through that. The era of code monkey or just moving data from A to B is really over, right? If your value proposition is writing boilerplate Python or clicking buttons in a GUI, then you have already been replaced. We are now in this window where the middle skill engineer gets absolutely wiped out by automation and budget, constraints. And today I want to jump on, talk about whatever questions are on your mind. I've got a couple of bullet points that I'm going to jump into, but I would love to hear, what's going on in your data journey, in your personal career, and how can I help? What questions do you have? And how can I help you to be successful going into 2026? Like I said, I have some things that I'm going to talk through that I think that you should focus on, but yeah. So happy new year. Absolutely. Welcome. And thanks for jumping on. So, I don't like to talk about, the happy path, right? I'm going to be coming out with a 2026 roadmap. One of the questions on one of the previous videos was Happy New Year, was what does our 2026 roadmap look like with AI kind of jumping in and making all these changes to our careers, right? And so I don't like happy path tutorials. I don't like happy path roadmaps. You need to be prepared for for battle, right? You need to be prepared for those days when you walk in and everything's red and broken. And how do you quickly recover from those situations? So I've been studying and working on data engineering, but I'm scared it might be outdated. What's the most needed skills? Can I do a magic trick? I'm not good at magic tricks. But no. Okay, so let's talk through this. Maybe tell me a little bit about the skills that you've been working on. Things that are always going to be important, right? Are Python, SQL. You still need to understand the basics of things like data modeling and distributed compute. Those skills, those understandings, that comprehension of those things are still going to be very important as we move into 2026 and beyond. While AI can create some boilerplate code to get you from 0 to 1 really quickly, you still need to be able to look at that code, read it, understand it, and refine it, right? Even if you're just talking through with AI back and forth and providing feedback and getting updated, scripts, you need to be able to understand what's possible. You need to understand what's going to work, what's not going to work, what's going to work best. And you need to still understand those things. As far as new skills that you need to start developing, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and jump into things like MCP, right? If you don't understand what MCP is and how it works, it's probably a good idea to start understanding that. I think MCP is going to become more and more important for data professionals and data engineers as we move into 2026 and beyond. If you don't have a good, decent grasp of what agents are, even if you don't necessarily understand how to create your own AI agent, I think that it's a good time to go ahead and start doing that. And don't be overwhelmed and scared about these things, right? If you're in data already and you understand the concepts of orchestration, maybe you understand how to use Airflow, or you've created your own Databricks jobs, then don't be overwhelmed. You're in good company, and orchestration is a very transferable skill to creating AI agents and how they interact with each other. And I think that's going to become more and more important as we move into 2026. Happy New Year. Thank you. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream. We have had a huge influx of new subscribers. I wanted to jump on and say hello and say Happy New Year and talk through what our career and profession looks like as we move into 2026 and answer those questions that you have. So we started out with a great question. So the great question was not, can you do a magic trick? The great question was, I'm scared it might be outdated. And to be fair, I think that universities and colleges are having a hard time right now figuring out what the right things are to teach. There's so much churn, there's so much change in especially our industry and in technology as a whole right now that they might be having a hard time keeping up. And I have friends that are in university positions that are either teaching or they're in higher education teaching, and they tell me, I hear from them that they are working hard and trying to stay diligent to keep what they're teaching relevant. Uh, Plan to start data engineering now in 2026. Should I learn normal data engineering or Gen AI data engineering? So I think that it's still important. I mentioned this a minute ago. Still super important to still understand the basics, right? You still have to understand, even for the Gen AI data engineering, you still need to understand things like data modeling and how to efficiently model your data and how to get it all into a place where the AI systems can get to it, right? You need to understand governance, you need to understand security, you need to understand data modeling, all those things in order to get the data into a place and uh, and cleaned so that AI can look at it and give you accurate responses, accurate visuals, accurate responses, and give your executive team accurate responses. Right? You don't want them to have bad data to make decisions off of. What do you think about analytics engineering? This is a great question. Comes up a lot. I really love this question. So I think analytics engineering, I think the way that a lot of those positions are kind of created right now, you get put in between kind of a rock and a hard place, right? You have it's like Genie, right? From like Aladdin, right? You have all this cosmic power and understanding because you're balancing both sides of data engineering and the analytics piece, but like itty bitty living space, right? Because you have the analysts that look at you more like engineers. You have engineers that look at you more like an analyst and don't give you necessarily all of the freedom and access that you might have as a full data engineer. Um, so I think it could be a hard place if you're going to stay in that career for a long time. I think if you're using it as a stepping stone to move from a data analyst to a analytics engineer into data engineering, or beyond, then I think it is a great path, right? I think it's a great middle path to help you move through that progression. But I think that it can be a hard place if it's something that you get stuck in for more than a few years. I've been learning how to build my own AI agents. This is awesome. That's exciting. By using my own terminal in Python, but I see a lot of websites that have automated the AI agents. Should I try to learn how to make it myself? I think it's important to learn how to make it yourself, right? I think that at least once, right? Having that foundational understanding of how everything kind of works helps you to understand those automated tools as well, right? It helps you to really understand kind of what's going on behind the scenes and under the hood. Um, it just like it's important to understand kind of what's going on behind the scenes and under the hood of things like Lakeflow Connect and Databricks and DLT and so the Delta Live tables, which are also your LDP stuff, right? Your Lakeflow declarative pipelines. So understanding what's going on under the hood and all those things helps you to be a better data engineer, helps you to be a better practitioner in your career. But there are a lot of, I think that AI agents will continue to become productionalized. Yeah. And so probably just made up a word, but they're going to be more modular, like we have with some tools that we have for like low code, no code workflows and pipelines, right? Where you're dragging and dropping different tasks and you're kind of orchestrating things. And so we have those tools out there. And I use one for some of my content stuff, right? When I post a video, I get a message from a platform called Relay that I use that watches my video and gives me a summary so that I can edit it and then copy and paste those into LinkedIn. And I usually make some changes, but it basically grabs the link for me, does a summarization, and that's a example of an agent that happens, right? So I think that they're going to become more like that. And if you haven't used Relay, it's a great app. I'll drop the link later on in the chat. If I'm starting data engineering now from scratch and want to master and make the difference with other professionals in the job market, how should I begin and move forward? Data engineering now from scratch, want to master and make the difference with other professionals in the job market. How should I move forward? I think that it's always good to communicate. I've had people reach out to me and just say, hey, I'm interested in data engineering or I'm getting into this profession. I'd love to just take 15, 30 minutes of your time and talk. A lot of us are happy and excited to be able to have those conversations with you. So reach out to them. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn. I've had people reach out to me in email. Reach out to people that you see that are in positions, especially in positions in companies that you're really interested in to moving into, and have those conversations with them. Understand what their day to day is, because honestly, there are a lot of different data engineering positions, from one to the other. So it's it's really an interesting career. I love it. I would encourage you to reach out and have those conversations with people. And if you'd like to have a conversation with me, look me up on LinkedIn, ping me, and we get set up sometime. Thank you for being one of the only creators in the space. Well, thank you, Mr. Lott. Excited that you're here. I appreciate you. And I will say that there are not a ton of specific data engineering creators that are out there. There are a few, and there's not a lot on YouTube, honestly. If you go over to Substack, there's a lot that write. My friend, one guy that I've gotten to know through my journey is Joe Rice, and he has a great book out. He is working on another book right now, talking about data modeling. But be sure to look him up on. He's had an interview with. He's had interviews with really some really interesting people, but most of his stuff is over on Substack. He does have a YouTube channel as well, but he's one of my favorites. But thank you. Is there a place where I can find good data sets for a data engineering portfolio project? So this is an awesome question and something that I wanted to talk about today. Anyways, so I'm going to take a minute and I'll get to I'm not. Somebody asked, "Are you black?" And I'm not. I don't know if that's referring to me or maybe another question. But is there a place where I could find good data sets for a data engineering portfolio project? So, there are a ton of open data sets that are out there. You have Kaggle, right? And there's some good Kaggle data sets that are out there. But honestly, I like some of the government data sets that are out there. And there a lot of the U.S. government. If you're in the U.S., a lot of the U.S. government data sets that are out there are free, and you could get to them, and you could hit them either with APIs or you could do manual downloads of zip files and CSVs. And so it is really cool, and I would recommend going that route. But honestly, uh, the path that I use when I have people come into my coaching program is I have them tell me, what are your passions? What are your interests? What industry do you want to go into? I have them go through and identify 5 to 10 job postings where the job posting, they look at it and they're like, this is something that I love doing. This looks really interesting. I'm excited about this. We kind of strip out the tools and the skills out of those job postings that are important and common amongst them. And we identify what those data sets are that they would be using in those careers. And then I go out and I do some research and find some data sets. Sometimes there's a cost to getting to those data sets, but usually I could find pretty decent open free public data sets that we could hit. But it does take some research. I like to use Claude, or a lot of times I could use Claude, or Gemini has really been Gemini Pro has really been my go-to here lately for helping with some of that research. Um, but they give you some really great data sets, so that would be my recommendation. Uh, Awesome. But anyway, so that's also my path for coaching, right? Is again 5 to 10 job recs, identify kind of the industry or the business types that you want to work with, and then go out and find those data sources that are relatable to those job recs. And that will help you to build your portfolio specific to the industries that you want to get into. Um, I want to jump back to some of these questions I may have missed here. We hit that one. Certain data. Yep. Uh, do you think it's still possible to land an entry level role as a data engineer in 2026? And what do you think you should be the primary focus as it pertains to a learning path? So, great question again. So, I do think that there are data engineering and entry level data engineering roles have always been sparse, right? It has never been something that has been, there's been a whole lot of them out there, right? That's why people jump into things like DBAs or data analysts or even business analysts, and then kind of move into those data engineering roles within those companies that they end up in. Um, but I have seen a couple posted lately. One for cellular sales that I think recently got filled, and one for a startup. But they are out there. You do see them every now and again. The biggest thing I could tell you to do is, again, network, reach out to those people that are in those positions in those companies that you're interested in getting into. And then when you see anything data related to those in those companies, then jump on and apply to those companies. Um, and keep in mind, not everything is data engineer, right? You might see like ETL developer, right? You might see, I've even seen it spelled out as database engineer. Um, so, so keep in mind all those things. And the reality is, if you have some background, some skills in Python and SQL, and you've been working on those skills, don't be afraid to apply to just a data engineer position, any data engineer position, and don't apply to senior engineer positions, right? But apply to a data engineer position if you feel like you fit maybe 70% of that job rec. Um, but again, primary focus always is going to be SQL and Python. Told to focus on AWS, Python, SQL, Pandas, and Snowflake. I don't know that I would focus a whole lot of time on Pandas. Pandas is a great foundational library to understand how to use data frames. I would quickly jump into something like PySpark or Polars or DuckDB. But the rest of in Snowflake, yeah, again, I know that if you've been following me, you probably know that I like Databricks. And the big thing that I like about Databricks right now is their free edition really is very open, and you could do a ton of things. You don't have to put a credit card in at all. So there's no concern about any charges. And it really gives you a platform to learn. Um, So I like it. And AWS is great to learn. It is definitely on the more technical end of things. So if you have a technical background, if you're good and have an aptitude for that, then I would definitely jump into AWS. If not, there's no harm in jumping into Azure. And keeping in mind that Azure has 70% of the market right now, right? So that's my recommendation there. Any Airflow project recommendations? Opinions on local versus cloud projects and kind of data sources to use in projects. I kind of covered a couple of these things as far as kind of data sources. Um, it, I think that if you're working local and you have a low budget, right? You want to keep your learning free or kind of low low end of cost, then stay local. As far as cloud budgets, if you have a little bit of money to use to spend on that, then definitely go that route, making sure that you're putting guardrails in place to make sure that you're getting alerts and notifications or things are kind of shutting down when they hit a limit, right? So that you don't end up with a $3,000 surprise bill at the end of the month. Nobody wants that, right? So those are the things, right? As far as Airflow project recommendations, I would make sure that you have maybe a few different things that you're orchestrating with Airflow, right? Maybe you have an ADF pipeline, maybe you have uh, and a Python notebook, and maybe you have a Databricks job that you're orchestrating all these pieces together, right? Because that's the power of Airflow, is that you could orchestrate all these different pieces from all these different places. So that's my really quick recommendation. Is there a place I can find good data? Oh yeah, hit that. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Lott. Would you review a LinkedIn? Um, Reach out to me. With all those types of questions, feel free to reach out to me. We could talk through it, and and go from there. Da-da-da. Hey, Chris, I've been studying data quality in Databricks. In what situations would you use DQX for data quality versus expectations? So I really like DQX for data quality, um, because it gives you an easy path for a quarantine table, right? I think from my perspective and from my history, I'll tell you that having that quarantine table really has saved my own tail in a lot of situations over the years. Because having that quarantine table, I could go back to the business and specifically say, okay, at this time, at this date, this is what this said. And it was an error and an issue from a data quality perspective because there was this character that was entered into this, right? And it's easy to go back, take those records back to the source, back to the person that entered that data in that system, and get them to fix it at the source. Anytime you could go back to the source and get things to be corrected from there, that's the right path. You could even build systems and reporting around those quarantine tables, right? That you can get into the right leadership person's hands so that they could get in, and have those conversations with their people and making sure that the data is being groomed appropriately up front. So those are the types of situations. As far as versus expectations, I think that things that are system generated, that are 100% system generated, that a person's not touching, then use expectations, right? But if it is something that is a person is touching in the organization that you're working with, then I would use DQX so that you can explicitly create those quarantine tables. For someone looking for their first data role, how do you stay motivated and focused while trying to pivot from another IT role? How do you leverage your previous experience to not feel like a total fresher? So, first, I want to address the not feeling like a total fresher, right? We all, even those of us that have been in this career for decades, have days where we feel like the new person again, either because there's some new platform or new tool or new skill that we've just learned, or just because we have a day where our brain is just like, I can't think anymore, right? And we have a word for that, right? We have a term for that, and it's called imposter syndrome. And so we all have those days. So know that that's happens to all of us. And as far as jumping into your first data role from another IT role, that can be hard, right? That can be rough. Especially if you haven't built a relationship with those people in those team in that team. So especially if you're being promoted from within the company, from an IT role into a data role, I would have worked on all that time building up to that point, that relationship with those people in that on that team, right? And understand what their pain points are, understand what they do day to day. On just building a relationship, know who they are, know about their families, so that when you jump into that role, then you've already built this support network that they're excited to have you because they know who you are, and they're going to kind of help you through those pain points as you move into that. Um, and just developing good um, a good support system in general, even if it's outside of the company. I'm looking away for a minute because I'm going to grab a link to a Discord group. So Joe Rice has a Discord group called Practical Data Community. I'm part of it. It has a bunch of great people in it. I would definitely recommend jumping into it. Um, that is a invite link that I just put in the chat. But and I have one as well, and it's the link to that is in the description of the YouTube channel. But build those relationships with other data people. It will help you along your career, not just now, but well into the future. Is a Databricks Data Engineer Associate certification still worth it? I think so. Um, I think, especially if you're just getting into it, if nothing else, the learning that you'll go through as you prepare for that certification will be relevant and important as you move into a position where they're using Databricks. Um, and the professional certificate as well. I'll say that I had a friend that I work with that he recently got his associate certification. And the thing that surprised them was how much Kafka was in, and there were just a handful of questions, but he didn't expect it at all. And for him, it made the difference between passing and not passing the first time he took the cert. And so he had to sit for it a second time, but know that that's something that surprises people sometimes that's in it. But I absolutely think that it's still worth it. Should I go for Databricks Data Engineer, Azure Data Engineer? I think that this is the feedback that I always give to people that ask this question. And that is research. Research the industries and the businesses that you are really interested in applying to, and figure out which one they use. Do they use AWS? Do they use Databricks? Are they an Azure shop? Some of them will be Informatica, right? And you're going to be talking like ICS, which is the Informatica Intelligent platform, their cloud platform, or it might be still be Power Center. A lot of companies are still on Power Center as far as the Informatica side of things. So it just depends. Do your research. Again, of course, if you've been following me, you know that I am passionate and excited about Databricks. I love it, especially from a AI and machine learning and really, large scale data platform type situations. A lot of the companies that I work with are dealing with petabytes a month of data that are flowing through, and so it works well for those situations. But that's my recommendation is I like Databricks, but definitely do your homework, do your research into the industries and the businesses that you want to jump into and figure out what they're using. Recently, okay, I want to hit this one. Oh, you're welcome. Um, Recently added to a team, and they're using Prefect for orchestration. Okay. Instead of using Databricks workflows. And surprising part is those workflows, which we run in Prefect, eventually runs in Databricks, right? Yeah, that 100% happens. And there's Prefect. I also like Orchestra. Orchestra is another one that's really great. If you haven't taken a look at like Mage AI, those platforms are really cool. Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Uh, Yeah, two questions. We'll get to your questions as soon as I get to them here. Um, there are so many tools in there are so many tools in data engineering. How to decide what to learn, or should we upskill based on job requirements? Um, again, I'd lean back on doing your research, right? Research the companies that you're really passionate about getting into, right? If you're passionate about getting into FANG companies, then by all means research those FANG companies. But the rest of the 99% of us that don't work in those 5 FANG companies, then you know there's a bunch of out there there's a bunch of work to do. There's no shortfall of data engineering work that needs to be done today or in the future. So for those of you out there that may be worried about kind of the sustainability of this career path, there is a ton of data engineering work out there that needs to be done. Don't be afraid to jump into it. As far as just the overwhelming number of tools that are out there, again, do your research, figure out what the companies that you're interested and passionate about getting into are using. Again, I like Databricks. I love Azure. I've used AWS extensively when I was at AT&T and with their cybersecurity organization that is now Level Blue, um, and uh, and that was a great great situation. Learned a lot about Elastic resources and um, did a lot of writing Python scripts, putting it into Docker containers, and orchestrating it uh, with Elastic repositories and ECS in AWS. But but yeah, do your research and figure out what's being used. Okay, so got 2 questions. I'm getting my first ever intern. Oh, congratulations! As a data analyst, how can I get the most out of it to eventually go into data engineering? And do you have any resources to learn Spark? I if you go back to the I did a I did a video a couple months back that um, has a list of courses, and one of those courses were a couple of the courses were on Spark, and so I'll see if afterwards I could grab those links and put them in here, or ping me and I'll send you the links, either email or jump into the Discord or on LinkedIn. I'll get you the links, but yeah, I do have a couple of courses that you could go out and take. I think that they're still like 75-80% off right now, and on their Udemy courses, um, they're good to jump into. Honestly, best thing that you could do. Again, I know that y'all have heard me say this again and again, but go out, get a Databricks free edition account. Again, it is completely free, no credit card required. Jump into it. It's not something that I'm affiliated with or anything. It's just a great platform to use right now for learning, especially for learning Spark, right? You could create notebooks and you could run things. There are some preloaded data sets like the New York City taxi data set, and there's like 4 or 5 different kind of decent sized data sets that are already in there. You have the ability to hit other APIs and ingest data from other APIs or other systems. You could create a volume and manually upload CSVs, and learn how to parse various data sets. You learn how to parse JSON and get it in how to model data and create your own catalogs. And you're using, the great thing there is you're using Unity catalogs, so you could practice governance and things like that. And so yes, So I would do that. That would be my recommendation as far as learning Spark. Then there's no better learning than hands-on and fighting through the errors that you get, and the troubleshooting skills that you'll gain from doing that. Um, so as far as getting the most out of the opportunity, uh, first of all, again, congratulations on getting the internship. That is incredibly exciting. Learn everything you can from the analysts, build relationships with the data engineers, with the rest of the data team, understand what their day to day is, if that's what your eventual career path is. Have those conversations, get to know them personally. And I would set up, especially when you first jump in, set up 15 minutes with each person on the team, whether they're an analyst or an engineer or a data scientist. Understand who they are, get to know them, and build those relationships. That's the best thing that you could do. Um, that's me posting the Discord link. You're welcome. Okay, I'm developing a news feed. Ingesting articles from RSS feeds, normalizing them, clustering them into stories, then contextualizing stories with data from the WB, UN, WTO. Any advice? I think that's a great project to do. So I mean, you're practicing all those things, right? You are, I'm assuming, ingesting that data. You're doing probably some cleaning of some text and parsing that data and normalizing, like you said, normalizing it. Maybe you say clustering into stories. So maybe creating some tables that some kind of dimensions that are like some type of article or story dimensions that kind of group things by different categories. Practice doing things like clustering and indexing, and like you could do liquid clustering in Databricks. Practice those distributed compute skills. I know that might not be a huge data set, but hopefully it's a decent sized data set that you could kind of practice some of those skills on. And I would create, so my recommendation to people, even data engineers, is to also create some type of visualization at the end of it that shows that you understand what the business impact is, or what the business impact could be of the data that you're pulling. So that's my recommendation there. Kaiser. I apologize if I'm butchering your name. So Kaiser, welcome. Planning to get into data engineering. Decided my stack. If you could go through the stack, let me know. I've decided my stack. If you can go through the stack, let me know, and I will share here. Yeah, if you want to share your stack, and we could talk through it. Happy New Year. What are your thoughts on AI and data engineering? Can AI replace data engineering? I touched on this a minute ago. I don't think AI is going to replace data engineering at all. I think from my perspective, from where I sit, from both my consulting as well as with my coaching program, it continues to be a lot of work. There continues to be a ton of work to do, especially for data engineers. Because the reality is, people are wanting to use AI to help to improve their sales, to reduce their operational costs, to reduce the time that it takes to get things together, right? And to get reporting done for various purposes, and to get just work done, right? I mean, there's a lot of operational work that has to be done behind the scenes. And so AI is great at doing a lot of those things. But the reality is that all the data needs to be in the right place. It needs to be clean. It needs to be accurate. And, one of the things that I'm talking about with one of my clients and with a couple of the companies that I'm working for is creating a whole layer, right, within your, a lot of them use the medallion architecture, right, but creating a whole layer specifically for AI, right, and that this is the layer that you want AI to hit. so that when you have a COO or CFO that asks a question of a chatbot, that chatbot is hitting an MCP server, and that MCP server is hitting specific APIs, and those APIs are hitting that specific layer within your medallion architecture to retrieve the data to provide that information and that answer. Doing that helps you provide consistent answers that when that CFO, that COO, that VP of sales goes out and looks at another dashboard, the data that they got from the AI, the information they got from AI is replicated within that dashboard, right? It is the same as what is shown in that dashboard, and you don't have any inconsistencies. Because as soon as you have those inconsistencies, then you start to lose trust in the data, right? The business starts to lose trust in the data. And they're not going to blame the AI. They're going to blame your data team saying, why is this wrong? Why is this different? So that's the biggest thing that I have to say about AI and data engineering. Again, as you could tell from my recent videos and probably today, I'm a big proponent of starting to learn MCP server, because I think that it's going to be, and AI agents, because I think that they're going to be the future of a lot of what we do. There's a lot of transferable skills if you're already in data engineering, right? Because we do a lot of orchestration. We're doing a lot of that similar work now, and we understand how those data flows kind of work and should work. So that's my 2 cents, maybe a whole dollar's worth. Thanks for your response. What do you think of Fabric as a all-in-one platform? And also, what do you think about Microsoft changing the Azure data certs to Fabric data certs? I don't like it. So Fabric has come a long way. When 3 years ago, when I first talked to Microsoft about Fabric, it even the rep that I was talking to didn't realize that it was getting ready to go GA the following month. They thought it was going to be another 3 or 6 months. This was like October, maybe November, 3 years ago. It wasn't fully baked, right? The cost was astronomical. The functionality just wasn't always all there for everything. Again, it's come a long way. I think that is for the right use case, then I think it's there. I think it's ready, and I think it's a great platform. But it depends on your use case, right? I'm a big proponent of fitting the use case to the tools and the resources that are needed. You don't want to use Fabric for a lot of high volume IoT data that's flowing back and forth, right? That's more of a Databricks thing. But Fabric is great for pure analytics, where you're doing batch loading, where the connectors and the functionality is already built into Fabric today. Again, it's come a long way, but there's definitely some functionality that still needs to be worked out, in my opinion. And as far as Microsoft changing the data certs, I miss the DP203. I think that the 600 and 700 are great, are good resources, but I don't think that they're looked at the same as the DP203 was. So that's my personal opinion. Cool. Okay. Clustering by embedding stories, looking at semantic overlap, and aiming to use classical. Oh. Yeah, if you're leaning a ton on Cloud Code is awesome, right? It is the Mercedes of those AI platforms when it comes to programming and coding. But if you're leaning a ton on it and you don't understand what's really going on, then definitely take a minute and take a beat and figure out what's going on as it's giving you that data. Don't rely 100% on it to the point where you don't know what's going on. For someone trying to get into data engineering, it's hard because jobs require company experience, and I feel like I need to show my projects as company experience. So here's what I'll say: I've had a handful of coaching clients get into positions lately, um, and they didn't have any previous experience. One moved into a mid-level data engineer with Accenture from being a project manager. Uh, his sole experience with systems, with data platforms, was the coaching program. Was the were the three projects that we, the 2.5 projects that we had worked through to that point, and he's successful and happy in his Accenture role now, and so I think that that it can happen. I think you have to find the right position. You have to be able to maybe talk to the things that you learned uh, in your programs that you went through, or in your self-taught uh, learning that you went through. Um, and I also think that it's important to rearrange your resume, your CV, to the point where you're highlighting your projects kind of upfront, and then putting your career uh, history underneath that. Right? Bring those projects to the top, maybe right underneath your summary section, and then list your career history, and then put your education and any certifications that you have at the bottom. But that's my recommendation as far as that goes. It is and has always been difficult to get directly into data engineering. For D, how would you recommend using AI to amplify data engineering work? Um, I work with this one guy, and his name's Miguel, and he is awesome. And he uses AI very much to amplify his and speed up his data engineering work. He uses it again to get. I think one of the greatest ways is getting from 0 to 1. So much of what we do is, if you're an incredibly fast typer, then awesome, right? And you're not going to make any mistakes, then cool. But getting from 0 to 1 uh, is one of the best ways to use AI, right? Make sure that you're feeding it very explicit, detailed instructions as to what you're doing. It's going to give you kind of the boilerplate template of what's you need it to do, and then you could adjust it from there. But again, just like I've kind of harped on this whole time, you still need to understand Python, you still need to understand SQL and you still need to understand things like distributed computing and data modeling in order to accurately get out of it what you need to get out of it. And you have to understand the business context as to what's going on. So those are my big things there. That's one of the best ways that you could use AI to amplify your data engineering work, is getting from 0 to 1, working with, again, as a couple people have said, Claude Code is great. Claude is recognized as one of the better platforms as far as um, the programming side of things goes. You're welcome. Show fake experience and try to defend it in interviews just to get a chance to work as that's definitely how it feels, right? But the reality is that if you are doing projects that simulate those situations, that simulate dirty data, that simulate hitting APIs and pulling that data, and you could talk through how you troubleshooted, how you work through those issues, how you adjusted, that ability and those skills that you're demonstrating are the skills that hiring managers are looking for. I'm not saying lie on your resume. I'm saying identify that these are the projects that you worked on and that you did, and bring them to the top, and put in the link to your GitHub account, right? To your GitHub repo, so that they could go out there and take a look at, how you coded and what you did. Um, it and then be able to talk to and defend it in your interviews. But yeah, it could feel like you're showing fake experience, but it is not fake experience. It is real experience by going through those projects. It, definitely, if you've done the Titanic data sets and the COVID data set, don't put that on there. No hiring manager wants to see those anymore. We're all tired of seeing them. This is a good example of how overwhelming it could be, from a jumping into data engineering, right? Both of these uh, that Kaiser put on here, right? That so this is your stack, right? And it's a lot, right? Python, MySQL, PySpark, Pandas, Airflow, GCP. Um, like you can't. Some of these are repeated in here. Here's my dedicated tech stack for data engineering. It started to okay. I think the second one is just the full thing. So GCP, BigQuery, right, and Databricks, Delta Lake. CIC, I'm assuming you're talking about maybe GitHub Actions here. GitHub is important. GitHub's understanding how to use GitHub is always going to be important. MySQL, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily spell out MySQL as opposed to just SQL in general, right? Understand how SQL engines work. Understand the difference between uh, our legacy platforms, right? Our SQL Server, our Oracles, and the modern platforms, our Databricks and our Snowflake, and they understand the difference between columnar and row based, um, and how that works, how distributed computing works. Uh, but I would just say SQL. And as far as like PySpark, Pandas, even getting into like Airflow, DBT, really understanding the platform and just understanding how it flows, but you still just really need to know SQL here. Docker is not always going to be important. Docker is awesome. I love Docker. Again, it was definitely part of my stack at one point, and still part of my stack sometimes. But it was part of my daily stack at one point, and love Docker. Not used everywhere, right? Especially with all the tools that are out there today. Understanding what CI/CD is, right, and how it works, and what tools are out there for those types of things. Especially if you're in Databricks, understanding things like DABs, right, the Databricks asset bundles, understanding, you know, GitHub Actions and how that flows, understanding kind of those pub sub triggers and responses are important. They're more maybe conceptual than anything. And these are things that you will get into and learn quickly as you get into your career, not necessarily a absolutely have to have experience with walking into your first job. But that is a huge stack, right? And if you have these things, then you should be able to walk into, as long as you could talk to those things, right? The skills are important. Your ability to talk to those situations, talk to your troubleshooting ability, your ability to communicate, your ability to vocalize how what you do impacts the business are equally important. So don't lose the sight of those things just because you're so focused on the skill side, the programming side of it. How do I sign up for your coaching program? I'll throw the link down in here. And you could check it out. So the link is also on the website, but if you go to gambledataengineering.com, you'll see the mentoring program, and if you scroll down through there, you'll see the information about the coaching program and how it works, along with some FAQs and then the different levels that I have. So go out and take a look at that. How can I learn? I for much of my career I've been self-taught. I love learning. I learned early on in life, not too early, but when I was 20, that I love data and I love making things more efficient. I love automation. Um, I love taking manual work out of things. So I have a passion for it, right? So I have always gone out and sought out new things to learn. And so I would recommend that same thing. Also, later in my life, in my mid 30s, I did go back and get my master's degree from Western Governors University. So, if any of you gone to WGU, represent. But I really like WGU because it is self-paced. You also get certifications along the way. And it's just all part of the program, and you pay for 6 months and you get as much done as you can within the 6 months. There's a minimum that you have to get done, but if you can pull stuff in, then you can. But as far as how you learn, as far as the coaching program, right, I meet with my coaching clients either weekly or bi-weekly. We talk through whatever the kind of roadblocks that they ran into in their project have been over the previous week. I also have a couple of coaching clients that they're already in data engineering or even senior level positions, and we actually talk through kind of the roadblocks that they had in their actual job during the week. But having a mentor, being in a coaching program helps that facilitate that learning, right? But everybody has their own learning style. Some people learn by doing, some people learn by reading. Personally, I'm a learn by do. So having a practical hands-on situation is important to me. And that's how I teach as well in my coaching program. So we meet, one-on-one, weekly or bi-weekly, depending on which option that you choose. And we talk through your project. We talk through what you're going to be working on, very much like a Scrum stand-up, right? Where we're talking about what you got done, what your roadblocks are, what you're going to do, and then talk through how you're going to do them. After each project, I have you go through and present to me what your learning was. I have you talk through your Python code so that you have an intimate understanding of how to program and what's actually going on. You're not just asking AI for some boilerplate code, putting it in and going on with life. I make you read through it and make sure that you understand what's going on. And then we do, 3 kind of progressively more difficult projects, and including a example where we're kind of dealing with master data management, right? Where we're dealing with creating gold level data sets and talking about survivorship rules and things like that. Fuzzy matching, all that kind of stuff. So, but how you could learn, there's a ton of resources out there. Udemy, mentoring, coaching. How much PySpark is needed for data engineering depends on the role. You've heard me say that probably 20 times in the past bit, but very much depends on the role. I've had some positions where, especially early on, I didn't use Python at all. It was all SQL based and low code, no code type stuff. Even had one job where it was a little bit of Java, and we didn't use Python at all. But more and more, you see, especially in situations where you're dealing with kind of high volume data transfer and data processing, you are going to be using that kind of Spark type type tools, right? You're going to be using PySpark, you're going to be using Databricks, you're going to be using maybe Snowflake or whatever the case may be, but you'll be using some type of distributed computing platform. Do I need deep knowledge of DBT, Airflow, and Kafka? I don't think so. I mean, if you have some knowledge of those tools, I think it's good to have some exposure to them. They each have some kind of free level that you could get into and practice and play with. But understanding, like Kafka, understanding how streaming data works is important. Understanding that specific tool, again, I can't harp on this enough. Do your research, figure out what the platforms and data ecosystem is of the companies that you want to apply to, and work on it from there. A light just went out. I don't know why. And work on it from there. it I've I've had situations where some companies don't like DBT and they keep all of their data quality stuff with contained within Databricks or Snowflake, and they're doing all of it within you know with Python scripts. Um, or even SQL, right? You could with PySpark, you could still use SQL. Or we talked about the Databricks has a data quality library or DQX, right? So, and some companies don't use Airflow at all, right? Some companies, their whole data ecosystem is housed within like ADF or Synapse, or they're all in Databricks or they're all in Snowflake. And so everything's in one tool. And so they could orchestrate everything from within the tools that are available in those platforms. And they don't use Airflow. So again, do your research, figure out what those companies use, and kind of formulate your path from there. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but AWS can do most things Databricks can do, right? Learning AWS alone feels like a big undertaking. I assume AWS is more in demand than Databricks. Honestly, AWS and Databricks. So companies have AWS and then have Databricks. Databricks is one of those platforms that can be on top of GCP, Azure, or AWS. But understanding like S3 containers is important, or understanding storage containers across those systems, right? Whether it is GCS, so Google Storage, uh, uh, S3 containers, or ADLS. ADLS is the Azure storage container. Uh, if you're going to be an AWS data engineer, some companies are only in AWS, right? They're using Redshift, they're using AWS Glue, they're using S3 containers, they're using maybe all the Elastic, ECS, ECR. They're using like EC2 instances to do a lot of their orchestration, right? To actually, those for the virtual machine piece. Or they're using Fargate maybe uh, as a kind of a spot instance. So it just depends. I wouldn't say AWS is more in demand than Databricks. Uh, I'd probably put them about on the same level. Here's the link to the mentoring program if anybody's interested. Doing masters in data engineering and analytics at WGU. Awesome. Good luck to you. It's a great program. I really liked it. For those of you that are interested in getting your master's program, I wouldn't have done it any other way. How's the online Masters of Science and Analytics program offered by Georgia Tech? What are your thoughts on this? Would be beneficial from a data engineering perspective. I think so a master's degree is not required, right? It's not needed. If you're interested in getting a master's degree, Georgia Tech has a fantastic program. Kennesaw State in Georgia has a great program. WGU has a good program. Those online programs are fantastic, especially for working professionals. And I would leverage that if you're ever interested if in the future, in 5 years, 10 years from now, 3 years from now, that you're going to want to get into a leadership position in data, then I would definitely pursue one of those programs. That's my 2 cents. If you're interested in only ever being a individual contributor, I don't know that it's necessary. Oh, there's still a ton of questions. How important do you think school is for your? I go the same route. I think that a lot of education, a lot of companies want you to have an education so that they know that you know how to learn. Right? That was reinforced to me early on, and honestly, I spent the first more than half of my career without a degree at all. before going back and finishing up my bachelor's, because my initial out of high school, I went to University of Tennessee, and I was a sports management major. Even was a student football manager for a period of time with the University of Tennessee early on. Was a great experience. Had a ton of fun. Was not clearly what I did with the rest of my life. Spent the next 15 years working in data before I finally went back and got my bachelor's, finished up my bachelor's, got my master's. Um, hey, Matthew, I miss you. I'm going to respond to your message here in just a little bit. Probably have some time on Monday, but I'll let you know. Matthew is one of my is part of my coaching program, one of my mentees, and has been with me a long time. So been thinking lately about moving from data engineering to cloud architect's a good path, right? Azure, GCP. I have a friend that just moved from a senior data engineer position into a data architect position. And he's a Databricks data architect, but same concept. There is, I think that is the career path for some data engineers, right? They want to move. They don't want to stay with data engineering. They want to go into that more planning architecture type role. I like it if that's what your passion is. Matthew, you know my opinion on following your passion. If that's where your passion lies, there's definitely a path there, and there is definitely opportunity there, and will continue to be opportunity with AI as we move forward into the future. What are the most common AWS services DE should learn? I kind of covered them a minute ago, but Redshift, RDS databases, right? You do RDS Postgres database, understanding how those work. Your Elastic repository, Elastic services, Elastic container, ECR, ECS, those Elastic services that are in AWS. Obviously, understand how S3 containers work, understand Lambdas, which are different than Lambdas that you write in Python. You could create Lambdas in AWS that are basically kind of similar to triggers that when something happens, it performs a series of tasks. So understand how to create Lambdas because it is very Python driven, and how to do that in AWS. Understand, again, depends on the shop. Some are very AWS glue heavy. Some are lean more on creating, doing stuff in the Elastic services and with Lambdas, and using triggers that way. So just depends, but those are the things, right? Redshift, RDS databases, Elastic services, Elastic repository, so ECR, ECS, understand how S3 containers work, and AWS glue. Currently transitioning out of the Navy and want to transition data engineering. I'll say that my brother was in the Navy. Just to kind of real quick shout out to him. He was in the Navy. He was a corpsman. Was stationed at Bethesda. Still lives in the Alexandria area, and he actually ended up going into a full stack developer position, but spent a lot of time in front end. Is now kind of full stack. Asks me some data questions every now and again, but yeah, that's a great path. He basically did a boot camp that the Navy paid for right after he got out of the Navy, but it was a great path for him. Able to advise offline in a session if I'm able to get into that field with my experience. Man, ping me on LinkedIn and reach out, and let's set up some time. Might even I'll talk to you, and then might even connect you with my brother to just kind of talk through his experience with kind of how the Navy, how the government paid for certain things and helped him out in that on that side, because he does government contracts now. He works for a company that does government contracts now, and so there's some opportunity there for you. That may be an easier path than a lot of people because you have that military background. I mean, how important is the specific school? No, it's not, right? Um, it's what you make of it. It with anything, it's what you make of it, man. Guys, it everything, whether it's school and you absorb and get everything you out of it that you can, whether it is a position at work, and I'll tell you that some people are really great at taking any position that they get into and making it the position that they want it, right? They start to demonstrate the ability and the skills that they have, that they want, that, you know, pursues the path that they want to go in. And especially if you're good with data and you're good with learning how the business works and how you could automate and save the company time and money, um, you'd be surprised how quickly you start to be pushed into those situations where you're getting to do those things. But yeah, the specific school is not super important, um, especially at my level of my career. But especially when you start getting into the career, that's not, most companies could care less whether you went to Harvard or you went to a community college, as long as you could demonstrate the skills that you have. Data arc, yeah, yeah, yeah. I knew what you meant. I'm a fresher planning to become a data engineer. Plan to study DSA for 3 months and then Hadoop and data warehousing for 3 months, followed by some cloud learning. Um, I mean, I don't know that you specifically need to study the big yellow elephant, Hadoop. Um, understand distributed compute, right? Understand big big data warehousing. Understand. Uh, I don't know that I'd focus on Hadoop, right? I mean, you can. Um, I would lean towards Snowflake or Databricks or Synapse, right? Understand how distributed compute works, understand how big data processing works. Data warehousing, super important. Spending a few months on data warehousing uh, and distributed compute in combination is probably good. Um, DSA, understanding data structures, right? The algorithm piece it comes into play at some points, understanding kind of how things, as far as how things work, understanding hashing, things like that. But understanding data structures, super important. Definitely focus on SQL and Python. SQL and Python are always going to be important no matter what, even if we have AI writing it for us. Um, for the same reason that understanding math is still important, even though we have calculators, right? Even if we have a system or a tool that's doing a lot of the work for us, it's still important to understand the foundation, so that if something gets something wrong, whether that be because of context of how it's put in or whatever the case may be, being able to troubleshoot those things, you have to have the foundations. Um, but overall, I think that's a decent approach. I would do DSA and SQL in combination for 3 months, and Python. You probably do DSA, Python, and SQL in 3 months, right? At least from a foundation, base level. Definitely reach out to you and like, yeah. Hey, Nikhil, what's up, man? So Nikhil also has been with us from early on. Super excited that you're here. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, we hit 10K, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to jump on today. We hit 10K last week. Super excited about that. Super excited about all the growth I see from everybody. One of the things that I love hearing from people is that they're getting something out of these sessions, whether it be the live sessions or the recorded stuff that I do, and it helps them to get placed into a job. I get those messages fairly frequently, either personally or on in the community, and you'll see me celebrate those people. You see me celebrate the people that are in the coaching program. So it really it this is why I do it. The reality is that from a monetization standpoint, it's definitely not worth it. I don't do it for the money. I probably get maybe altogether $100-ish a month for doing these things. Um, but I don't do it for the money. I do it because I want to help people. So, but yeah, it's super excited about 10K. Um, how the job market for data engineering works looks like now in the US. Um, it still looks great, right? I mean, there are still a ton of data engineering positions out there, especially as we go into, again, junior level positions have always been sparse. Don't let people fool you that it's because of AI or anything else. Junior positions, entry level positions directly into data engineering have always been sparse. But mid level, senior level data engineering positions are pretty abundant. And there are always people looking, always hundreds and hundreds of positions open for remote positions that I see, just for remote positions. Nevertheless, the in office positions, which I'll say that companies are moving more and more to in office. But if you really talk to those businesses, a lot of them are fairly flexible with that too. Um, thank you. I'm glad that you got something out of it. It's been, like I said, it's been a long time since I've been on a live, so wanted to jump on and talk to everybody and kind of see where people were at and see what we could talk about. And it gives me ideas on kind of what other sessions we need to do. So I think I hit up all of the questions. So thank you all for being on with me. A lot of you stayed the whole hour, so super excited. I know we've run a bit over an hour. We're at an hour and 16 minutes. But if any, we still have more questions. Okay. Oh, Nico. What about being opening for DevOps, platform engineer, backend software engineer? There's still some backend like SWE positions, software engineer, for those of you that don't understand that acronym. Don't know that acronym. DevOps positions have never been, again, real abundant. They pop up from time to time. And if you have a passion for DevOps, then there's there's not a whole lot of positions, but there's not a whole lot of people out there applying for them either. So there's that. And I think so. Here's my concern about back-end software engineers, right? I think that we'll see less and less of those, especially with AI and vibe coding and tools like Cursor come out more and more that help people to get from 0 to 1 really quickly. I think that I think that right now we're in this situation where those jobs are starting to dwindle, and then the pendulum will eventually swing back. I think where they are more prevalent, but I think we're in this time where those SWE jobs are probably fading away a little bit. Personal opinion. I don't think that with Spark that DBT is a must. Again, research the companies that you're wanting to go into. Some of them will still layer DBT on top of Python, on top of Databricks or Snowflake to do some of that data quality stuff, the data quality checks and cleaning and stuff. But my experience is that a lot of that work is done within Spark anyways. So within notebooks or Python scripts anyways. Awesome. We're kind of dwindling down. I think I caught up on all the questions. So I think we're in good shape. Again, thank you all for being here. I know that it was a bit longer than maybe we all expected, but thank you everybody for joining. Nikhil, so excited that you were able to jump on, and Matthew, thank you for being here always. But if there are any final questions, ping me, let me know, and I'll answer them here. Other than that, we'll wrap up. Again, thank you again so much. Super excited to hit 10K. Super excited to jump on the live session. Yeah, you're welcome. And again, thank you all for being here. And I'll try to put those, grab those links for those Udemy Spark courses in the comments after the session. If you ever need to go back, the live sessions are on YouTube. I also am on Substack. For those of you that may not know, I do publish usually weekly, bi-weekly-ish articles on Substack. So check those out there. For those of you that follow me pretty closely, you'll know that I had a disagreement with another very popular data influencer. I guess he's a data influencer, really. Kind of talking about the importance of slowly changing dimensions. But that was one of my articles that I posted over there. But again, if you're interested, go jump onto my Substack, read those. Thank you all again so much, and I will look forward to talking to you again soon if I get to still talk after an hour and a half. So, and for those of you that are in the US, I have some in-person engagements that are coming up. If you're looking to go to a conference in the near future this year, there is a conference called Data Tune that's in Nashville, Tennessee, that I am doing a full day Databricks workshop on Friday, March 6th. And then I am doing a an hour-long session on how to stay relevant and continue and have continuous learning in the in AI, with AI and everything that's going on in our profession as we move into 2026. So if you're interested in seeing me live and seeing me in person, definitely sign up for that conference at DataTune. In addition, there is a conference here in Knoxville, where I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, called Codestock. Super excited that Codestock is going to be back this year. It's kind of been on a reprieve for the past several years, really since COVID, and super excited Codestock's back. And I'll be also speaking. I have 2 sessions at Codestock this year. Again, one on Databricks. It's not a full day workshop. It's just an hour, but I'll be talking about Lakeflow and probably a little bit about Databricks asset bundles. And then the other one is the AI session, right? Continuous learning in the age of AI. So super excited about doing those sessions. If you're interested in coming to a conference, I'll be at those places in March and April this year. So do we have another question? I'll do the other question. After completing 3 months of DSA, SQL, and distributed computing, I should start learning Spark. Yes, absolutely. Jump into Spark. Once you have kind of that foundation there, Spark should be kind of your natural progression at that point. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you all again for being here. Thank you for staying on with me for an hour, and I appreciate you. And again, if you ever have any feedback, if you ever have anything that you want to see me talk about, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me either in the YouTube community, sync with me on LinkedIn. We have a Discord community as well. But I look forward to hearing from you and talk to you again soon.